Hello, hello, testing 1, 2, 3. Good evening, welcome. Hello, hello, testing 1, 2, 3. So, our usual agenda once again to go through a critical reasoning discussion sheet. And if you came because of the promise of the toothpaste ad and critical reasoning applications in real life, we'll do that also in between questions. But first of all, to get started, I posted the link for the exercise on the chat. Please click on it, find the sheet, and maybe try out the question. And another thing that we want to work on is essentially, or let's say, get a conversation started about fallacies in reasoning, right? Faults in logic, and they are everywhere all around us. So we'll go through some of them. And again, it's an idea that you should get more familiar with because it's quite a vast subject. I'll just be touching upon a few super hit faults in logic, but you should write this down somewhere and read up more about it. It's an ancient science and everything. That means a lot of people have thought deeply about it, and I've already given you a structure to help you think clearly, think critically. So, a lot of work is available, and that is part of your research homework, that look up logical fallacies, right? Hello, hello, testing 1, 2. The link for the sheet is given on top of the chat. You can find it there. Right. So meanwhile, as you find the link, or let's say to get the process started, we want to look at a couple of ads maybe and look at how critical thinking works in real life. Right. That was one of the discussion agenda somewhere. So I was going through some ads for. Give me a second. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you an ad and tell you about a very popular logical fallacy which is known as appeal to authority. So if you want to give weight to your argument, you maybe bring out a PhD candidate and say, listen to him. He is a PhD candidate and he's from the IITs and he's a scientist and he's the greatest leader of all time. So therefore, what he is saying is correct, which is not necessarily true. And a very mangled up version of it is used in advertisements, especially for these all of these toothpaste advertisements and a lot of similar products which fall into the same category. So I'm going to show you the ad, and I hope you can.
Wow, my teeth do feel way cleaner.
And I hope you can listen to it because that's a slight bit of a shady connection. So this is Oral-B toothpaste and mouthwash TV ad. Right, so we want to go through it, and I hope you can hear parts of it, or you can look for this ad, or you can find a lot of these ads, right? So essentially, one thing that you have to remember is that the agenda of the ad is to try and sell you this particular product. That means their basic final conclusion is that they want you to believe that this is a great product worth buying. So let's see what happens in the ad.
Went pro with Oral-B Pro Expert toothpaste. I thought, wow, my teeth do feel way cleaner. Must be something to do with the pro bit. And when I discovered Oral-B mouthwash, I thought, whoa, great taste, no burn, and my whole mouth just feels, you know, healthier.
For a healthier mouth starting from day one.
Right? Were you able to hear the ad and listen to what the lady was saying? Now, so as of now, this ad was working on the principle of testimonial, that I tried out the product and I felt very good, and it had something to do with the product features maybe. And then I tried out the mouthwash, and some features were given, okay, that they
Great taste, no burn, and my whole mouth just feels
great taste, no burn. So maybe some customers had a problem with similar things which burn a lot in their mouth. So some features are being hit upon. Personal testimonial plus some features, right, so far. And now what's going to happen is very, very interesting, and all ads do that. Now there is a doctor in the
not just
screen.
me that's noticed.
Go Pro.
Notice again, it's very quick in this particular case.
Go Pro with Oral-B Pro Expert. With Oral-B Pro Expert.
Brilliant.
Go Pro.
That's noticed.
So now this is not really, this guy here smiling and looking all happy is not really a doctor. That is, so putting him here is essentially an appeal to authority. That if you see a guy in a white coat, you are more likely to believe that yes, all of this nonsense, perhaps nonsense, is scientifically backed by a doctor. Now we obviously know that this is a TV ad, and it's false, and this is an actor, right? We hope all of us, I mean, I'm assuming we know that this is an actor, and both of them are actors, and they're paid to do this. Even though we know it, even then the advertiser still thinks that this is a good idea to put a random person in a doctor's coat to try and convince you that this product is basically approved by doctors or dentists. Maybe it is, maybe it is not. That is not my concern right now. But this is false reasoning. You're putting a white coat on a person, and therefore I am likely to give him more authority and believe this person, right? And Aristotle had thought about this like 2000 years back and listed it down, that when people argue, they often do this appeal to authority. All of us have experienced it in our lives also. Whenever our parents tell us ki don't do this, and you say why can't I do this, and they say I tell you so, there is no argument there. The main argument is that I am the authority and I am telling you I know better. The logic part I don't necessarily need to provide to you, right? So this is called an appeal to authority, and it's happening everywhere in any such products ad. I want you to stop and notice these things in your day-to-day lives. And I know you think you're doing it already, but do it more critically and eliminate a lot of this information, right? So appeal to authority, where you say this person knows better, look at him, therefore believe. Though the argument is not really given, I still don't know why it's a great product. That lady says it is, but I still don't know what is the chemical composition, what goes into it, is it healthy for me, is it poisonous. Maybe once upon a time it was a floor cleaner and they put a little mint and now they say it's like good for you. So who knows, right? So asking questions is essentially it, and that's what we want to work on as much as possible. Also, that means this question that we want to work on is great, but we want to inculcate this habit of this asking questions, asking whys, and learning more about the world. So once I'm aware of these loopholes in logic, maybe nobody else will be able to fool me or recruit me into their propaganda machine, etc., right? So it's a valuable life tool, and it is like I mean, if you read any article about the job market, the future of the job market, what is the core skill needed by a human being to operate in today's economy, it will always be critical reasoning. Can you think critically or not? And second most important would be language and communication. Then comes the whole framework of technical skills, or unless you're very good at one particular skill. But if you're good at something, really good at something, chances are you're also good at logic and therefore critical reasoning. So tell me if this made sense, this idea of appeal to authority, and the classic example of that is this doctor guy. Yes, no, maybe so. Right? I have a couple of more examples in the same vein, in terms of trying to think critically in our day-to-day lives. So this happened. This is what is going to play out next is about a news item that happened today. There is some statue is being made in Bangalore. We'll come to that video in a second. Some statue is being put up in Bangalore, and the context of this discussion is that because of the pandemic that we are in and everybody is saying there is lack of money, do we need to put up that statue, right? That's the kind of question that would come to any citizen's mind, that is it the right time to put up a statue when people, I mean, when everybody needs help and everybody is complaining about lack of money anyway. So this happened in the news item. I hope
from a crippling economy, and it's the time.
I hope you can hear it. If not, I will rephrase whatever is happening. So first, the news anchor is talking about that in this economy, this statue is going to happen, and then essentially the minister comes and explains that why it's not a very bad thing or whatever, right? So we want to listen to his reason. So this is, I think, where the minister comes up. The sound is going to be a little shaky, but try and understand the gist of it.
It is not a new fund that has been allocated. The funds earlier itself, the allocated funds was not utilized.
So what he is saying, and I know the sound is very trashy, I'll work on a better version later. He's saying that the funds were allocated even earlier, I mean before the pandemic. So it's not a new fund. Can you find a fault with this reasoning that everybody is complaining that why are you doing a statue now? And my counter argument is that I use the funds are coming from earlier, right? There's a problem there, because even if the funds are coming from, they were allocated earlier in the last year's budget, the contention was that everybody, like the whole state is saying that we don't have money, we don't have hospital beds or whatever. So even if the money was allocated last year, why is it still not being used, right? So so very simple counter argument that can be presented, that fine, it was allocated last year, but how does that still make sense? It was allocated when there was no pandemic. Now there is a pandemic and the situation is very bad. So how is this statue still a priority, right? And it doesn't stop. The second minister was cleverer, right? Listen to this guy.
From a crippling
Project has been announced not today. It is a last year's budget. Just because now the corona issue is come up, we can't stop irrigation work. We cannot stop infrastructure work. We cannot stop any other program belonging.
So he says the same thing, that money was allocated last year, and just because corona has come, we cannot stop irrigation work. First he says irrigation, then he says infrastructure work, right? So here he is going for a false equivalence. He's saying, see, we can't stop irrigation, therefore we can't stop statue building also. Does that make any sense? Irrigation is very, very important because it is related to essential services. If you don't have irrigation, your farms will not work, and then you will not have food. If you don't make the statue, what bad will happen, right? But he continues making that argument. He says that because we are doing irrigation work and other work and other work, therefore the statue work is also okay, and nobody even stops him. I mean, there is not even a debate. So it's happening everywhere. Somebody is giving you an argument. Now, can you look through it? Can you see through it? Can you identify whether it's a good argument or not, right? So in terms of looking at daily life. Yeah? So I hope that a little bit of detail made sense. Looking at the sheet right now, and if you want to do the sheet, so the first question is on the screen. If you are here and participating, please let me know your answers. So I've got a couple of answers, A, B, A. Okay, let me first look at why A is not the answer. I'm assuming you have read the story and read it well. So let me go sentence by sentence. Sleep deprivation is the cause of many social ills, ranging from irritability to potentially dangerous instances of impaired decision making. Simple summary: sleep deprivation or lack of sleep is bad for you. Most people today suffer from sleep deprivation to some degree. That means most of them are making those dangerous mistakes, and therefore now I will come to my conclusion. We should restructure the workday to allow people flexibility in scheduling their work hours. That's what was given. Those who said A, option A, the primary cause of sleep deprivation is overwork. How did you come to that? Where is overwork mentioned? If you look at that last sentence, it only says we should restructure the workday to allow people flexibility in scheduling their work hours. It is not saying to reduce the work hours, it is talking about flexibility in scheduling the work hours. So only the change is happening in schedule, not in the amount of work. So how did you conclude that the cause of sleep deprivation is overwork? Right? I know it's an easy enough mistake to make, that the doctor is saying that reschedule or give flexibility in the working hours, and the first thought that comes to you is that they don't sleep because of overwork. It's not necessarily because of overwork. It could be because of poor scheduling, that you should sleep at a particular time maybe and wake up at a particular time maybe, and the modern workday does not allow it. So A is not going to work for me, right? My question was, which one of the following, if true, would most strengthen the medical doctor's argument? B is the correct answer. So let me go through it first. Employees would get more sleep if they had greater latitude in scheduling their work hours, right? Because he's saying that if you restructure the work day, and basically he concluded, he said people are suffering from sleep deprivation to some degree, therefore allow them flexibility in scheduling their work hours. That means he must be assuming that the problem is because of the scheduling in the work hours, and once that is fixed, people will be able to sleep. Because if that is not the case, even after flexibility, if people are not sleeping, would this recommendation that flexibility should be given make sense? That means if he is saying that flexibility should be given, he must be assuming that flexibility will help solve the sleep deprivation problem. And that's why my answer option would be option B. Yeah? Question number 2. Any answers for question number 2? Right, I think everybody got this right. Answer is D, Delhi. That neither Newton nor Leibniz learned crucial details about calculus from any third source. Because our final conclusion was, thus Leibniz and Newton each independently discovered calculus. He had given enough reason to show that they had not copied it from each other. But one basic assumption that one could have thought of was that maybe some third person taught both of them. In that case, Leibniz and Newton each independently discovered calculus will not be true. That means if you are saying that they discovered it independently, one of the ancillary assumptions definitely is that they did not copy it from some third source. Mukul has given the answer as A and retracted it. So I'm assuming the logic is already clear why. Right, so I hope it's clear why A is not going to work. If I look at Leibniz's story, he published his version of calculus before Newton did, but Newton revealed in his private notebooks which showed he had been using these ideas at least a decade before Leibniz's publication. Newton also claimed that he had disclosed these ideas to Leibniz in a letter shortly before Leibniz's publication. Yet close examination of letters shows that Newton's few cryptic remarks did not reveal anything important about calculus. So Leibniz's information did not go to Newton and Newton's information did not really go to Leibniz. Both of them did work on calculus and therefore they derived it independently. Now Leibniz did not tell anyone about calculus prior to publishing his version of it. Doesn't really matter because there was no communication between these two, and even if he did tell someone, maybe his wife or his friend or his brother, the agenda was that did it get to Newton or not, and if it did not get to Newton, then I can definitely say that they discovered it independently of each other. But given that they did not actually copy it from some third wise person. Moving on to question number 3. Any answers for question 3? Okay, Kamlesh Singh says C, for example. I'm assuming everybody has read the paragraph and is able to make sense of it. So, C says, since 1974, automobile manufacturers have been required by law to install life-saving equipment such as seat belts in all new cars. Remember, our question was to strengthen the argument, to make it better, to give support to it. If C is true, the argument actually becomes weaker, right? Why? Because if in 1974 all automobile manufacturers were required by law to install life-saving equipment such as seat belts in all new cars, maybe the fatality rate is decreasing because of the safety equipment, not because of the reduction in speed. So if C were true, it would actually seriously weaken the argument, right? Or maybe that's what you thought the question was. Let me go through all the options quickly. Option A says the 1974 fuel shortage cut driving sharply for more than a year. If you take this to be true, once again it attacks the argument, not strengthens it. But even that, it does not do too well because it happened for 1 year, but over the next 10 years the fatality rate declined by another 25%. So it wasn't just a one-time thing, it happened for like 10 years. So A is definitely not going to work for me, right? Any other answers? Otherwise everybody has got it right. D is the correct answer. The fatality rate in highway accidents involving motorists driving faster than 55 miles per hour is much higher than highway accidents that do not involve motorists driving at such speed. If you take this to be true, then it becomes true that because of the reduction to 55, the fatalities have drastically dropped. Let me just quickly go through option E also for formality's sake. Motorists are more likely to avoid accidents by matching their speed to that of the surrounding highway traffic than by driving at faster or slower speeds. Totally, completely irrelevant, doesn't help, doesn't attack, does nothing. Right? Let's do one more question. This is a good case of error in the reasoning. which we started off the session with, that what is the problem in the reasoning. Try it out. Any answers for question number 4? Mukul says option D, and I'm going to highlight that and ask you again. That means I'm asking a specific person. Confusing the coincidence of two events with causal relation between the two. What are the two events and what is the confusion? Can you elaborate? Confusing the coincidence. It's a very good idea. It's called correlation versus causality. But how does it apply here? What are the events that are coinciding and what causal relationship did the paragraph assume? E. Somebody says E, depending on the ambiguous use of a key term. Which key term? Which key term is ambiguous to you? Which key term is the confusion in that term is being used to complete the argument? I'm assuming everybody has read the story. The story is simple enough. When workers do not find their assignments challenging, they become bored and so achieve less than their abilities and would allow. On the other hand, when workers find their assignments too difficult, they give up and so again achieve less than what they are capable of achieving. So they get bored and achieve less, or they find it too difficult and they achieve less, right? assignment is not challenging or the assignment is too challenging, and therefore it is clear that no worker's full potential will ever be realized. In this story, which was the key, the ambiguous key term? Right? This question is directed at Sejal, who said the answer is E. I am asking what is the key term, what is the ambiguous key term, and the answer is actually there is none. So now somebody says A. Excuse me. Let me go through A. Mistakenly equating what is actual and what is merely possible. What does this mean? Is that what is happening in the paragraph? In the paragraph, it is given as fact almost that when workers do not find their assignments challenging, they become bored and so achieve less than their abilities would allow. On the other hand, when workers find their assignments too difficult, they give up and again achieve less than they are capable of achieving, and therefore no worker will ever achieve the potential. So in this story, what is mistakenly equating what is actual and what is merely possible? Do you mean to say that this is just a possibility and the actuality is different and workers will be able to hit the maximum potential? But that is too convoluted, right? Assume that this is a fact and follow the reasoning there, and even then you will find a problem with the reasoning, right? So A is not going to work for me. B is the correct answer. And the moment you hear the answer, it will be very, very easy. Assuming without warrant, that means without any reason, that situation allows only two possibilities. Remember, he was saying the assignment is challenging, do not find the assignment challenging, and the assignment is too difficult. And he said, therefore, the worker potential will never be realized, right? So what is he assuming there? That it will either be too easy or it will be too difficult. Why can't we design work which is just the right amount, which is just the right difficulty? It is not too challenging nor is it too easy. So if the author or the writer is saying that therefore it is clear that no worker's full potential will ever be realized, he is mistakenly assuming that these are the only two possible states of work given, that it will either be too challenging or it will be too easy. Can't there be a middle way? Or, so essentially if you identify the assumption and then you find the problem in the assumption. So assuming there is no reason to believe that this particular situation allows only two possibilities. Why did he assume that? And therefore that is the problem in the reason. Are we okay with this? Nobody marked C, which is great news. And okay, D and E we looked at already, right? One last question for the day. And again, that's why I started off with a toothpaste ad to get that process started. Our tomato soup provides good nutrition. I hope you read the question and give me an answer. Actually, let question number 5 be homework for you guys. The answer key is given in the sheet. Not only that, there is a discussion also available on the same page, quite a detailed discussion as such. It's in Hindi. That's the only difference. So I'm doing an English version of all the questions that are there in Hindi. So I'm leaving that last question up to you. If there is a problem, please go through the discussion. Yeah, I think the answer is E. Right? But let me leave that question and let me take you back to real life again. So this happened, and again,
A bite of the day, the junior minister.
so there is a minister who said that humans or we did not come from monkeys. So first of all, my question to you is that do we come from monkeys, and what is the flaw in the reasoning that the minister is going to provide?
School and college curriculum.
Listen if
His
possible.
reasoning in this part is an absolute gem. No one actually saw apes turning into men.
आज तक किसी भी व्यक्ति ने न कहानी में न मौखिक ने लिख करके बताया कि वो जंगल में कहीं गया था, किसी शहर में गया था, उसने किसी बंदर को आज भी बनते हुए देखा हो, ये कहीं पर नहीं देखा गया। डार्विन ने इस प्रकार की जो थ्योरी दी है वो वैज्ञानिक रूप से भी गलत है, और इसलिए स्कूल और कॉलेजों के अंदर इसको बदल कर नहीं हुए। जब से धरती पर आदमी आया है, शुरू से ही आदमी है और आदमी ही रहेगा।
So in case you missed that argument, this minister said that nobody has seen it, right? And it is not written in any of our holy texts or whatever. But I'll ignore that part and I'll stick to that first bit. He's saying that nobody has seen it happen, and therefore it is not true. Even this is a fallacy in reasoning. It's a well-known error, and it is known as appeal to ignorance. That because you haven't seen it, it must be true or false depending on the speaker or the author's point of view. So we are looking at a couple of very common errors. One was appeal to authority, and the example was that dentist showing up in a toothpaste ad, who is a fake dentist, who is an actor, who is just dressing up like a dentist to give appeal to authority. Appeal to numbers, that if many people are saying it, it must be right, which is also a very common thinking error. And in this case, he was appealing to your ignorance, that if you haven't seen it, it must not be true. So a counter argument would go something like this: nobody has with their own eyes seen the Andromeda galaxy also, so that also must not be true. Nobody has ever seen a black hole, so even that must not be true. Nobody has seen a photon, or nobody in the ancient times had seen a laser or a radar, so even those must not be really true. But we do know them to be true in the real world, right? And that's the problem with whatever he is saying. So it's not only an academic subject, it's a very real life subject. We do it in an academic setting because we're just trying to practice our basic skills, but hopefully we want to be able to good enough to not only do academic questions but use it in our day-to-day lives, right? Okay, anyway, I think that's about it. I'm sorry if the screen is stuck. I think we'll figure it out in a bit. But that's about it for the day. Find the link and go through the sheet. The videos, the Hin Plus version is open for preview today. That's it for the day. See you soon.